Hey folks, David Stewart here. It's time for a bit more music theory. Thought it was time to make another vid. Today I'm going to talk about minor keys. Minor keys. Yes, I've been promising this for a while and now I want to deliver on that promise. Minor keys are great. What I wanted to do on this video is to explain how they work on a deep theoretical level with math and some of the early videos that I talked about. And do that before I give you sort of all the shortcuts that people tend to do when they start explaining minor keys. They tend to start giving you lots of explanations that relate it to a major key without really looking at how it works in a nice mathematical, theoretical level. So that's where I really want to start. Just as an introduction, minor and major keys are kind of companions of each other, or sort of go together in this sense. A major key tends to be pretty bright. A minor key tends to be a darker version of that key. Okay, so for every note you have a major key and a minor key that goes with it. So there's 24 total keys, not just 12. I show 12 keys in the circle of fifths, but there's 12 minor keys that go with that. And the way that relationship works, the reason that minor sounds darker than major, I'm going to explain, and it has to do with an inversion of the relationships of our primary chords. But what you can hear what it sounds like in context. That intro piece that I played is a really famous Spanish piece called Romance. It starts off in E minor, and then in the middle section it goes to E major, which is a much brighter sound, almost happy. And once you get through that major piece, or the major section, you go back to the minor section, and then it sounds like you've gone dark again. It's sad. And so that's kind of like part of the effect of the piece, and a lot of composers will use this. They'll start in a major key, go to a minor key, go back to a major key. Start in a minor key, go to a major key, and go back to a minor key. If you listen to Villalobos Etude, or I'm sorry, Prelude 1, and I should really get around to making videos. People are always asking me, can you show me all the fingerings and stuff for the Villalobos Preludes, and maybe I'll get around to that this summer, perhaps something to look forward to. There's demand for it. But anyway, in that one, in the middle section, you go to E major. Right, to like this bright sounding E major section. Just ignored like a little mistake. And it has a really big, bright, happy sound, and then you go back to this dark minor sound, and Villalobos really does a great job contrasting those two. So what causes a minor key to sound darker? Well, what a minor key is basically where you take a major key and you alter the fundamental relationships of some of the chords. And the way that this really works, I'm going to explain it quite a bit different than what most people will explain this as. But let's go back to those ratios. So if you remember talking about harmonic pitch collections and the ratios between pitches, here's a major chord. So we'll start down here with this A major chord. Here's all the chords of A major that I drew up, and we're going to turn these into a minor key. But let's start with the first one. Any major chord has a couple of basic ratio relationships in just intonation. Now, we don't really use just intonation so much. We now use equal temper tuning, but you should understand that this relationship is still based on the just true mathematical intervals that are happening between pitches naturally out in the environment. So you have a ratio between the outer pitches of a 3 to 2. Then you have a relationship between the inner pitches, between the bottom pitch and this middle pitch, of a 5 to 4. Okay, so that's a major third and a perfect fifth. So this would be major third, and the one on the outside would be perfect fifth. Okay, that's two basic intervals. Now, a minor chord, most people are going to explain it as they do a shortcut and they go, well, you flat the third. But what you're actually doing is you're inverting the relationships, because the relationship often not thought about is the relationship between these two pitches right here, which is a 5 to 6 ratio. 6 to 5. Sorry there. 6 to 5. Just imagine it says 6 to 5 in as messy as I tend to do it. Just hold that up there. 6 to 5 ratio, which is a minor third. Little m3, minor third. So you have a major third stacked on top of a minor third with a perfect fifth on the outside, and that's sort of what produces our ratios there. But what we do to make a minor key is we reverse that. We put the 6-5 on the bottom, we put the 5-4 on top, and you get a minor chord. And you can think of that as like flatting the 3 because the C sharp ends up becoming a C natural. So if we have an A major and we turn it into an A minor, we've inverted the relationship. Let's hear it maybe in root position. There's an A major. I change the relationship so the bigger interval's on the top, on the bottom, and that darkens it significantly. And the reason for that is that when we hear this, we're actually implying several undertones that have a mathematical relationship, because these are 3 overtones in a row above what would be a fundamental. When we have a minor chord, we no longer have the undertone experience that we get in a major key, and instead we're just looking at the raw relationships between those particular pitches and where they end up interacting in their actual overtone series. So the minor key ends up sounding darker because we've stretched the relationships and we've altered them and we've made them less harmonious to one specific tonic and more just related to each other in each particular moment. And that's going to make it feel less secure, less strong, darker, and also a little more wandering at sometimes, depending on how we want to use a minor scale. So what we tend to do is we tend to just go X out that C sharp. Bam, we have no C sharp. Now, we want to apply these notes to the entire key. So what we end up doing is going, okay, no C sharp. We're going to get rid of the C sharp. The 1 becomes, I'll do this in red ink. We're going to get rid of the C sharp. No more C sharp. We're making it a natural now. The 1 becomes a little I. Becomes a little I, 1. Okay? And we carry the C sharp through. The 3, which would be a C sharp minor, is now a 3 plus, and that's going to be a little bit weird. Oh my, the 4 or the 5 is going to be major still, and we have a 6 that's going to end up having a flat 5 that's going to be diminished. It's going to end up being a 6 diminished right there, and then the 7 remains where it is. That's if we just change 1 chord. But we want to change all 3 primaries, which is the 1, 4, and the 5 chord. We call those the primary chords. And you can write a piece, indeed, with just 1, 4, 5, and it sounds pretty okay. You can ask pretty much any punk band, and they'll tell you more or less that that's the case. Sometimes you can add a 6 in. So if we want to change the 4 to a minor, we're going to get rid of F sharp. And we're going to turn the 4 into a minor chord. And if we carry that F sharp through, this becomes diminished, And right now the 3 is augmented, okay? And, okay, we're getting rid of the F sharp, so, okay. Oh, all right, F sharp, this doesn't become 6 diminished anymore. Okay, so we'll cross out 6 diminished because it's now F, A, C. Oh, it's a major 6, that's weird. And then we still have this particular diminished relationship. So now that we've carried those through. This, for those of you who have experience with this G sharp is actually going to produce the chords for what's called a harmonic minor scale. Some people will tell you there's 3 different kinds of minor scale. That's not quite true in practice, and I'll explain that in a follow-up video to this. But what we end up with here is a nice set of chords. We can make the 5 minor if we want to, or we can leave it major. When we leave it major, we have a really strong resolution of the tonic. In practice, almost always you leave the 5 as a major chord when you're converting to a minor key. And what we've done here is we've reversed the relationships of 2 of the primary chords to make a minor and darker, and that in turn has affected all of the other chords. So we end up with this 1, 2 diminished, 3 augmented, 4 minor, 5 major, 6 major, 7 diminished, and it becomes a little bit of an odd sounding ideal. Now if we wanted to make the 5 back into minor, and we wanted to make this into like a little minor 5, we'd end up having to carry a G natural all the way through. So we would get rid of the G natural, or we get rid of the G sharp and make it G natural. And by that time, we've gotten rid of all 3 sharps, and you would recognize what the key signature is as being the same as C major. So once we make 1, 4, 5 minor, and this will produce a different set of chords, because once the once the E now becomes a minor and the G sharp is eliminated, what you end up with is this stops becoming augmented, and it just becomes a 3 chord. regular major 3 chord, which is weird. You have a minor 4, minor 5. The 6 is major, and then you end up with a major 7 if you make the 5 into a minor as well. But we don't usually do that. Most of the time the 5 is major. However, that's important to know because when we start writing the key signature for minor keys, we write it as if the 5 is minor, and then we write in what's called an accidental. We write in the sharp in the middle of the music to make the 5 major. So we end up with this relationship between an A minor, which would have, by the way, this is in bass clef. I did the other ones in treble clef, but I like bass clef for A. So we end up with an A minor, which would be A, C natural, and E, which that relationship is going to be a 3-2 on the outside, and then a 5-4 over a 6-5 relationship. That's going to be our ratio relationship here, is what we're going to end up with. And then that's going to relate to the dominant chord, what's called the dominant chord, the 5 chord, as a major chord, being an E, a G sharp, and a B, so that we have a really strong relationship. The G sharp resolves up to A very strongly, the E stays the same, and then the B resolves either down to A or up to C really, really effectively, usually up to C because that's a half step. That has to do with voice leading, and voice leading we'll talk about. I want to leave that for another video, but the closer 2 notes are together in terms of half steps, the more strongly they resolve to each other. So a B resolves up to a C really strongly. A G sharp resolves up to an A very, very strongly because they're right next to each other. B to C. Okay, and then we have one note that stays the same. So we end up having just as strong a resolution to the minor chord, if not a little bit stronger because of that extra half step relationship, than what we'd have normally in a major chord. And occasionally you'll hear a composer that will play a whole piece in minor and then end with a nice bright major chord at the very end. That's called the Picardy third, just so you know, a little piece of terminology, and Bach did it quite a bit to have an extra strong ending in major. This is your good introduction to minor keys. Next time I'll talk about the 3 different forms of minor and why it's not accurate to think that way. But hopefully this sort of explains why it's not so accurate, is that you really leave this, but we don't ever have a key signature with just a G sharp. We're always adding sharps in fifths. So rather than having a key signature of just a G sharp, we make that natural and we add the G sharp in the middle of the music. And that's more or less how minor keys work. They're a little darker because we've reversed the relationship on some of the primary chords, and that carried through ends up producing a very, very different effect at a different scale. Another way that you can think of this, here's the shortcut, is that if it has the same key signature as C major, all you have to do to find any key signature's minor scale is go down 2 notes, go down to the 6th scale degree. So if we go to the 6th scale degree of any particular key signature, so if we have C, we go to the 6th scale degree of A, or I'm sorry, if you're in C, you go to the 6th scale degree of A, and that's A minor. If you're in A major, you go to the 6th scale degree of F sharp, and that'll be the key signature for F sharp minor. And that's pretty much how they work. And another way that people think about it is that you're flatting the 3rd, the 6th, and the 7th scale degrees. That's another way that people think about it. But that doesn't get into the harmony and the way that the harmony works theoretically. So I really want you to think about the ratios to begin with. Then we'll learn some of the shortcuts maybe in the future if you didn't catch them from the video right now. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you want to see and what you want to hear. If you're interested in supporting the channel, links to my novels are down below. You can support me by buying a book, and then you get something for your money that is real intangible, especially if you buy a paperback. And if you don't like it, you can always give it to someone else, and that would make me happy too. So whatever it is, if it's not your thing, then at least you've supported me, and you have something to give to somebody and see if they like it. You guys have a great day. Hopefully this has been helpful for you.